Joining me right now is Bellator lightweight JJ Ambrose from the beautiful island of Guam. How you doing? Welcome to Kumute Radio.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always good to talk to you. Like how you keep it real.
You signed with Bellator last June, and you
Yep.
haven't been in the cage since. What has been the delay?
Like initially, I wanted to work on some, I don't know, just some holes that I thought I had in my game. And then I was scheduled to fight December 1st, but that didn't come into fruition. It was kind of cool to piggyback that training camp because I was still training like I was fighting December 1st. But so I just kept training and I went right into the next training camp. So I got 8 more weeks of conditioning basically for this one coming up on the 26th.
Now, the story of you signing with Bellator, in June is kind of I don't know if it's a funny story, but it's kind of an interesting story because you had signed the contract already, and then you took a fight in another promotion. Were people mad at you for doing that?
I wouldn't say mad at me, but there was definitely some breath holding, they're like, man, I'm sure people were like, wow, what a dumb decision. But I like fighting. I always have. I mean, I wouldn't do this sport if I didn't love it. It's not for the money. It never has been. I mean, because as my wife can attest, we don't make a whole lot of money fighting, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't a very calculated risk. It was just more of like for the love of the sport. And, I'm glad I did it. I ended up winning. So you can't regret what, you didn't do. So I'm glad I did it.
Now, you said earlier that you've been working on some holes. Who have you been bringing in to kind of like fill these holes? What have you been working on?
So to not give away too much from this fight camp, I started working with another fighter, Ricky Camp. He's on a pretty good win streak, but I like the way he moves. He reminds me of Frankie Edgar, his pace that he moves at. He's in continual motion. And I notice in the cage a lot of times I get flat-footed and I just stand in front of guys and kind of just trade. And I wanted to fix that. I want to trade disadvantage, or while my opponent's at a disadvantage, like at different angles. It's always good to hit guys when they're not expecting it. So if I'm just standing in front of them, like I'm taking a risk of getting hit myself, with the counter. So working on creating those angles, more motion, more footwork. I still put my chin straight up in the air. That wasn't fixed in this fight camp. So you won't see anything drastically different in the cage, but I'm working towards it.
If anybody follows you on Instagram, they see the videos of your workouts and you look in incredible shape. Do you think you're in the best shape of your life right now at 30 years old?
Yeah, I think every fight camp we say that this is the best shape of my life. This is the hardest I've ever trained. But really, it's just getting smarter. I made so many mistakes throughout my career with conditioning, with overtraining. I feel like I just have it dialed in now, or more dialed in than I used to have it. Yeah, I am in incredible shape right now. And you can see it in my sparring. There's been a lot of times during this camp where I had to go home because I was kind of overdoing it a bit. I was trying to fit it in a lot of sessions. But yeah, I mean, every camp I'm trying to build a little bit more, try to pick up 1 or 2 things that I didn't do the last camp. And this one's no different. I'm getting better at it.
This is your second stint in Bellator. Now, what differences do you see from your first stint to the beginning of your second stint, except for the hair? The hair is gone.
Yeah, I always tell myself I'm going to bring that back, but it's too difficult. So What's different? I feel like I'm a more mature fighter. There's a lot of fighters that when they're starting out, they're just ready for the lights. You know, you look at a guy like John Jones. He was just amazing right out the gate. Just so physically gifted and so mentally mature in the cage. I mean, outside of the cage, that's a different story. But inside of the cage, you know, it looked like he was at home. And I found that the first time I was in Bellator, I kind of was like a deer caught in the headlights, so to speak. Maybe I just wasn't mentally mature enough. I hadn't had enough fights for myself. I mean, I know everybody's different. Some guys go in there with just a couple fights and they look like they belong. Or I don't think I was ready. Whereas now, man, like as far as nerves go, I don't get nervous anymore. I remember before I fought Rickles, I was nervous 3 weeks before the fight. I remember waking up at night sometimes and my heart was racing. And now it's just like whatever's right in front of me. And what's in front of me is training. You know, like I have sparring Monday night, one more hard sparring session. And that's what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about anything else. And even more mundane, I think about the next meal. You know, I think a lot of times we get caught up in what's so far ahead of us, like the weight. I've just been focusing on the small things, the what's for lunch, how far I have to run today, you know, the simple things.
Do you think that this is your time? Do you think that you're in your prime right now? It's now or never?
I wouldn't say now or never. I mean, I talk about it with the guys sometimes, and I feel like I have 5 or 6 more years in me. I haven't taken a whole lot of damage in my career. And I've been very fortunate where my style doesn't necessarily, it's not hard on the body. I don't get hit a lot. So I'm not going to be one of those do or die guys. I'm pretty optimistic. Win or lose, I'm still going to wake up the next day and do what I love. So this opportunity that I have coming up, I feel very strong about my training partners, my nutrition. I feel strong about everything. There's no stones unturned for this camp. So I feel like I have all the tools necessary to come out with a win and get paid a lot more money so my wife can stop complaining about how many hours I put in at the gym a day.
For sure. You got to get your wife off your back. That's the number one goal in life, right?
That is the number one. Happy wife, happy life.
Now, your fight coming up at Bellator 193 on January 26th against Saad Awad. You have co-main event status. That's big for your return, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. Man, I can't complain about that. You know, I haven't really thought too much about where I'm at on the card. I'm pretty simple. I'm just happy that the media isn't blowing it up as much as like how they are with the heavyweight tournament. The heavyweight tournament is kind of trumping all the other news sources in Bellator anyway. So like with characters like Rampage and Chael Sonnen, not that our card is smaller in comparison, but as far as media coverage, it has been. So for me, that's good. You know, I'm not huge into doing the publicity stuff. I tend to keep to myself. I'm pretty introverted. So that's been kind of making me happy. Co-main event, but, you know, quiet.
Well, your opponent, Awad, he is a guy that has kind of been flying under the radar in the Bellator lightweight division. He is a dangerous guy. When you look at him, what do you see?
As a fighter, he knocked out Will Brooks, you know, a few years ago. He kind of derailed that hype train. I remember thinking that was pretty cool of him. I'm always a big fan when guys don't believe in the hype and you know, they go out there and they perform the way they're supposed to. You know, you shouldn't really look at a name or what came before. All that matters is what happens on the night of. And so like he won me over with that fight. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan of anybody that doesn't, you know, live to the expectations of others. So, but physically, I mean, he's a good striker. He's well-rounded. He's got some submissions under his belt. So I think it makes an interesting matchup.
Do you think he's the most dangerous guy when you look back at your resume?
Nah, I wouldn't say the most dangerous guy. Not at all. Mike Pyle by far at the time. I mean, now Mike Pyle is kind of over the hill a bit. Knock on wood, he's still a good fighter. But yeah, Mike Pyle is by far the best fighter that I fought.
When you go in there, what do you expect to happen?
To not give away too much, but I feel like I've studied enough tape, and we've been talking about this fight for, I don't know, since we found out about it. We started I wouldn't say picking them apart, because that sounds presumptuous, but I've just been looking for holes, and I think I found enough, and I found ways to plug them with my own game.
Now, looking at the Bellator lightweight division, it is stacked. You actually come in, I think, ranked, in my opinion, as one of the top 10 guys in the division. And
well, it is. Michael Chandler losing to Brent Primus kind of opened up the division, because I see Michael Chandler as for me, he's top 10 lightweights in the world. So him losing, that kind of opened up the division a lot. Whereas I see Brent Primus as a guy, he is undefeated, but I think he's more beatable than Mike Chandler. I think Chandler, with the training camps, I'm going to be honest, like I follow that guy a lot, like the way he eats, the way he trains. And, a lot of times when my coaches we're kind of, we're mirroring a lot of things, even his weight cut, because I always feel like Michael Chandler is like 1 year ahead of me. It's so weird. I mean, like his strength and conditioning program, mine looks like his now, I mean, with very minor differences. I think what it is how professional he is, how much he lives the fight game, essentially. Like there isn't room for a whole lot. You won't see that guy posting it much of anything else on social media, except for family, friends sometimes, and training. So, losing the belt opened up a lot of doors for the other MMA fighters, all the other lightweights. And I think with my record being what it is, that doesn't put me in title contention, but if I win a couple, then I am right there. If I win 2 or 3 fights, then I could justify asking for a title shot. Did
you watch the Primus versus Chandler fight? What did you think of how that, panned out?
If he was going to lose, that was the way he was going to lose. Like we always joke around when people say good luck, and some guys will say something like, I don't need luck, I trained hard. Like, man, I'll take all the luck I can get. I don't want to slip on a banana peel walking into the cage. Luck has a huge to do with things. Like you look at his ankle, he just placed it wrong, and there it went. Fight's pretty much over. I mean, he was still pretty game even after he hurt his ankle. I think he rocked Brent when he was on one foot up against the cage. I mean, that speaks a lot about Michael Chandler's character and his heart. But yeah, I mean, what's unfortunate is that like he had to lose that way, and we won't see a rematch for some time, because they're both scheduled to fight different fights. Michael Chandler fights next weekend, and I think Brent's scheduled to fight in a couple months. But yeah, I mean, obviously you want an immediate rematch, but I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Do you think that kind of tarnishes his championship belt by winning that way? Even though luck has a lot to do with it.
It does. Yeah, I mean, no one wants to win like that. I mean, it would be great to wake up with a belt, but at the same time, in the back of your head, you have to think that you didn't necessarily get it with all of your skill. Like luck had a lot to do with that. Not that he wouldn't have won. I'm not saying anything about that, but like the guy got injured in the fight, and not something you did. it was, you saw it when they showed it on the instant replay. Like when he put his foot down, it just kind of wobbled, you know. So I would never want to win like that. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody.
Now going back full circle, you know, you have your own gym, Steel Athletics. You have a family. You're a fighter. You manage other fighters. How do you do all of those things? What's the key to your success in doing everything?
Oh, man, I think it's got to be happiness. Like there's that old song, "Whistle While You Work," and I think that has to be it. You have to just be happy to do what you're doing. Otherwise, you'll lose your mind doing it. You know, I do run out of hours in the day. Like I remember my wife telling me Juliet had a project this weekend, and like I'm not very artistic, but you know, here I was. I drew a family tree with a bunch of different colors. You know, it looks like something from Avatar, and I'm quite proud of it now. You know, but at the time I was dreading it. I was like, you know, I didn't go to college um, because I didn't want to do homework anymore. You know, so here I am doing homework all over again. But no, I'm happy to do that stuff. I get, there's some reward from helping other fighters get good fights, and me not taking 10% of them. I'm a manager, but it's like I'm just helping them. I'm not managing anybody. I'm trying to point them in the right direction. I'm trying to not get them screwed by promoters that are just trying to make a dollar. You know, um, yeah. I mean, just I guess I just have to be happy with whatever I'm doing.
Last question before I let you go. I saw recently that you have this on Guam, right? They have Guam Cancer Care, right? And you joined the fight campaign. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that and how your gym is involved with that?
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool situation. There is a lot of foundations on Guam. There's a lot of like, you know, like 5Ks and 10Ks, like and marathons, where the community kind of comes together and like, man, it seems like two or three a weekend where there's some kind of fundraiser, and the community is really, really strong here. As you know, if you've ever seen a Guam fighter go off island and fight, the amount of support is crazy. It seems like anytime I travel and I go to a jiu-jitsu gym, there's somebody from Guam at one of the gyms. So it's like you get overwhelming support no matter where you go. So I mean, this joining the fight with the Cancer Foundation, it basically like once a week we'll host a class. I think we're doing cardio boxing. So someone will teach a class, and it's open to pretty much anybody in the fight. Not they don't have to have cancer. I mean, but you know, anybody that's kind of on board with them. You know, so it opens the doors to people that wouldn't necessarily come to my gym, but because they're a part of this program, they will.
You could catch JJ Ambrose at Bellator 193 in the co-main event against Saad Awad on January 26th. Thank you for your time, JJ, and good luck in everything that you do. You are bringing the community together and, you know, offering a lot of stuff for that island. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.